Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, after that very short break, just like I promised, to the MLG Prizefights. Optimus time alongside Chobra, about to jump into game number 1 between CLG Prime and Team Dignitas. Just waiting for the load screen with all these pretty banners to go away, and we will be in the level 1 action.
Yeah, so again, a lot of big matchups in this game, and we're excited for maybe any level 1 interaction, but, you know, judging from yesterday's games, I think it's safe to assume both teams will probably try to play it safe, at least in game 1. Judge what the other team has prepared with this new patch, and then maybe we'll see some more drastic changes in game 2. But champion-wise, we already have Teemo alone, who's going to bring a lot of change into this match, so it's going to be an excellent match. Don't go anywhere. We're just waiting on that low screen like Tom said, but if there is a level 1 engagement, who do you favor?
Well, I mean, once we get a good look at the champions, we're going to be able to break it down a little bit better. We are just loaded into the game now, so why don't we talk about it already? We, of course, have on the side of CLG Prime going to be your blue team, and then on the opposite side, on your red team, is going to be Dignitas. And right away, we get into a pause screen, but that's okay, because at least we'll have the champions up while we look very pretty on your screens. There we go. Isn't that awesome? Look at this.
That's beautiful.
I could, like, reach out and grab it, and I could pull it towards me, but it doesn't. I could take the biscuit out. Yeah. So, but unfortunately, we can't do that no matter how hungry I am. But now at least we have the champions on screen, so we can talk about those level 1 engagements. The side of CLG, they have Nivea with Flash Frost. They have Teemo, who can offer a blind, which not a lot of people will consider a crowd control effect, but when you're going to be relying on auto attacks at level 1 for almost all of your damage, it could really turn the tide of a fight if you put that on the AD carry, or you put that on that top laner that's going to be trying to deal a decent amount of auto attack. And look at this. I can control this with my mind. That's how good I am at this game. But other than that, you have a little bit of crowd control coming out from Yutwin's Janna. He's going to be able to pop that Howling Gale or the Zephyr, whichever one's going to be working out a bit better. Probably that Howling Gale, because he's, of course, going to be able to knock up multiple members from the side of Dignitas. On the flip side, Amumu, you don't want to start out with that Bandage Toss. Evelyn, you have a decent amount of damage with Hate Spike if the enemy team is in the same area, but you'd have no hard CC. If Zuna goes for his Cocoon at level 1, yeah, they'll have a 1.5 second stun, but they're going to have no damage output from any of Elise's skills.
That's very true. And also looking at items, I want to point out, Amumu picked up the Machete. Going for the Machete start, of course, it is a pretty good jungle item, but so does that mean we're bound to expect a Spirit Stone coming out of that into possibly an Ancient Golem upgrade?
Most likely. We've seen this on a lot of champions in recent time. We've seen it, of course, just yesterday, the X-Quantic against Curse North America matchup. Both junglers wound up picking up the... I completely forgot the name of the Ancient Golem thing.
Yeah.
The Spirit Stone of the Ancient Golem. That's our synergy right here. We're a casting pair. You guys can tell that one from there. But the Spirit Stone of the Ancient Golem being picked up, of course, is going to be adding almost everything that Mumu wants out of the jungle. It's like a blue buff almost. It's not exactly the same thing. It gives a little bit more sustain. Doesn't really give the mana regen and everything else that a blue buff would be doing. But Amumu being one of those junglers that's really dependent on getting something that can sustain him like a blue buff, it's going to be extremely important. We could actually see on the flip side, actually you guys really can't see it as well, but the same item build has been picked up from the side of CLG with Chowster. We were talking about this earlier. Are they going to be going for the Spirit Stone of the Lizard Elder, something to be on more aggressive junglers? Or is it going to be a safe Wriggles Lantern start because it's Lee Sin, he likes jumping around the wards, and Chowster loves putting wards all over the map?
Yeah, I think in this case, we have to assume it's going to be a Wriggles Lantern because of that ward, and also they want that jungle control. You know, if Amumu goes for the Spirit Stone of the Ancient Golem, Lee Sin having that Wriggles Lantern to get that extra damage onto objectives such as Dragon and Baron is really going to help them. And if Lee Sin wants to go aggressive and invade, the jungle's tough right now, so having that Wriggles Lantern is really going to help him against someone who has a little bit of a tougher time in the earlier rounds, such as Amumu.
I want to talk about this top lane matchup, but Zuna, unfortunately, wasn't able to buy any of his items. We could see right down below us that Hotshot has picked up that Crystalline Flask, the bottle of League of Legends. In addition to this, he's picked up what I could only make out as one ward so far, so we could be getting an additional item on top of all this. Could maybe be going for, if he's going AP Teemo, we could see him picking up a Fairy Charm to go for either the Philosopher's Stone or maybe going for a Chalice of Harmony, because Elise still going to be doing a lot of magic damage, although the magic resistance might not be as effective as Elise is going to be going for penetration.
Yeah, and also we need to mention that Kale just picked up a longsword. Of course, there's going to be gold left over, but not much. So going for the longsword straight from the start, and most likely building into a Vampiric Scepter. So, you know, we can already tell that Cutie Pie wants to go for that early sustain, and what are we expecting from that? Are we going to see a Blade of the Ruined King, or maybe just a traditional Bloodthirster?
One other thing you have to keep in mind is he could potentially be going for a Hextech Gunblade later on down the line with the Vampiric Scepter. He could be building that into the Bilgewater Cutlass. He could be upgrading that later on. He could also just be going for a start where he wants to go maybe some utility mastery. Maybe he's got the wealth and the greed, so he's going to be able to pick up the longsword in addition to some pots to keep him sustained in that lane. Maybe he's going to be counting on Sona and looking at both these support characters. If you guys out there have been wondering if the Biscuiteer and the Ward masteries have been worth it, well, both of these guys have picked up both of those, so it may really be worth it just for these level 1 situations. So like you mentioned earlier in the champions picks and bans, if that level 1 Ward is going to be able to deter anybody from any early aggression, or is it going to be used just to keep your lane safe? We'll have to see. But with that Sona on her sustain, Biscuit's going to be returning some of her mana as well. So she's going to be able to spam that W, keep Kale healthy, and if Kale's just going for straight damage and sustain afterwards, she may be able to trade out in situations where, say, Double Lift has gone for those potions and boots start.
Yeah, very traditional start, which is still pretty favored on AD carries. But then, of course, with the mini ward coming from the master, we can also expect that to be used kind of to force out supports from the brushes. Or, in the case of Dignitas, they can save it, try to put out a timing ward to make sure that they don't get ganked early by Lee Sin. You talked about that red buff start for Lee Sin. They are on the blue side. CLG could easily go for a easy first blood at level 1 in the bottom lane if Dignitas isn't watching out.
Another one of these things that mini ward, which I'm not going to steal the phrase from you, mini ward could be used for is they could put it at one of the enemy buffs. They could put it at their own buff. That 1 minute timer, that's going to be all they need to see where the jungler is going to be going in their path. This is going to save them any more wards that they want to place to keep them safe for that full 3 minute timer as opposed to the 1 minute. If you want to just ward your blue buff and see when the enemy is going to steal it, for example, the side of Dignitas, they have a Mumu. We've talked about how heavily he relies on that blue buff to clear the early jungle. Even in Season 2, the jungle is even stronger now for your first clear. It's a little bit harder for these AoE-centric junglers. That blue buff is going to be a huge point of contention. CLG knows it. They put a 60-second ward down there at about the 50 to 1 minute mark. They're going to know that when that blue buff spawns in just a couple seconds after, even if CLG goes for a delayed invade, by having that ward until the 2 minute or 2 minute and 10 second mark, they're going to know if CLG is making a move on it or not. If they're not, then they know they're going to be relatively safe. If they do, then they know immediately to swap over and try to take away the blue buff from CLG.
Yeah, so we've talked about, the overall matchups, the lane matchups at level 1, the early levels, but when are we going to see some big changes in the gameplay? Are we going to wait for the traditional level 6, or are we going to see a lot more movement earlier? Because we have champions like Evelynn, of course, who could have better ganks at level 6, but is really mobile earlier on. Same with Lee Sin.
I think one of the things that's going to be interesting is Evelynn has been a stable champion in Season 2. She's been building an Abyssal Scepter. Originally, she went for a Deathfire's Grasp first, did a lot of damage with that, and then the Deathfire's Grasp got nerfed. Then we saw people going for an Abyssal Scepter first, or an Abyssal Scepter and Deathfire Grasp around the same time, one sequentially after another, just depending on how the matchup went. We don't know if Hotshot's AP Teemo or not, but that could prompt maybe Evelynn going into an Abyssal Scepter first for the extra magic resistance. But if Teemo is not AP and he's going for that AD kind of build in the top lane, little bruiser Teemo, going to split push his little heart out up there, we could maybe see Evelynn going for a Haunting Guise. We don't normally see Evelynn getting a lot of penetration beyond the Abyssal Scepter and her Sorcerer's Shoes, but with Liandry's Torment, Evelynn's going to be one that debilitates with that AoE ultimate, and if you pop an AoE ultimate, slowing everybody down and burn away a percentage of everybody on the enemy team's HP, that could be a huge, huge thing to see.
Well, I also have to bring it up, Tom. You've been gushing about this item ever since its release, but the Twin Shadows, we see that? It has magic resist, AP, and movement speed. Really great for a roaming mid. On top of that, the active sends out 2 goals who slow the nearest enemy champions. If Scar can bring it up on top of Agony's Embrace, that's a lot of slow coming in from Evelynn alone. And then with the other members on Dignitas' team, those lane ganks could be very scary.
On the flip side, though, we could see Twin Shadows being picked up from the side of CLG to keep tabs on Evelynn. Just because Evelynn's invisible, I don't know exactly how those rates are going to work. Does he send it out anyway, knowing that Evelynn is there? Does the rate just stop and be like, well, there's no champion here? Fortunately, as much as I've been gushing about it, I've gotten my mid stolen away from me almost every single game, so I haven't been able to get it on Ahri, I haven't been able to get it on Evelynn or Diana, the champions that, like you said, I've been talking about, you should probably get that move speed bonus on. So I really don't know how it's going to work out for that, but if CLG knows something about it, we could see, maybe not GG going for it. I mean, he is a Nivea, he really doesn't benefit as much from the move speed, but we've talked about before, he's been aggressive in Nivea. We've actually seen him moving around with Chowster as a Nivea, setting up aggressive walls in the jungle to catch people out of position that they just don't expect, because they expect a Nivea to get blue buff, sit in mid lane and farm. GG's not content in doing that, so we could see him actually getting that. He gets the movement speed bonus so he can get back and forth to lane quicker. He, of course, can just kind of outrun Evelyn a little bit in that mid lane and just separate the distance so he could stay alive during the laning phase. Once Evelyn hits level 6, Anivia, she has to wait until 6 or 7 in order for that blue buff to respawn. Around that 7-minute and 20-second mark, barring any jungle invade or contention of that, if she winds up picking that up after Evelyn hits level 6, Evelyn can burst down Anivia. If Anivia gets ganked from the jungle, Amumu can lock her down pretty easily, especially with the Curse of the Sad Mummy. So that egg form could be burned. We could see the little Cryo Phoenix text popping up in the, or Cryo Phoenix egg text popping up in the chat there. If Anivia gets caught out, you know, it's going to be a little bit dangerous. However, she plays it a little bit safer, getting an item that's going to add resistances, add a little bit of ability power, and give her a little bit more mobility, which is something she really lacks in these games, could be very beneficial.
You know, another thing I want to point out between these two teams is on the side of Dignitas, there's no one who's just going to burst and then leave the fight. You know, they all have a lot of good sustained damage. Even Amumu, with those tiers, you can't discount that because over time it's going to do a lot of damage, especially in the late game when everyone has a decent amount of health. Then we have Evelyn, of course, with Agony's Embrace. That is a huge burst. It gives her the shield, but then she has hate spikes if you ignore her. We have Kale, who's known, like you said, with that Righteous Fury, she's going to do tons of AoE sustained damage. You don't want to let that going. Who is CLG going to focus in team fights?
Well, I think CLG, they really need to try to focus down one of the initiators that Dignitas is going to have. Sona, of course, with the Crescendo, if they can catch her before the team fight starts, she'll die very quickly. She'll almost vaporize because Sona, we know her as the champion that has about as much HP as a minion. 2 more, in fact, effectively. However, on the same side, Amumu is a strong initiator. He's not going to be burst down as easily as the mid to late game really gets going because he's going to be a bit of a more tanky build jungler. He could go for a Shirelios, but still he's getting the extra health. He could go, you know, just for a Randuin Zone and be super, super tanky. We could see him go for a Frozen Heart as well. If Teemo's going to be relying on auto attacks to deal any amount of his damage, well, buying a Frozen Heart's not going to be that bad at all. It's going to cancel out the Rising Spell Force from Ezreal, so he's not going to have that attack speed steroid, and then CLG is really going to be missing that Amumu pickup. Same side, though, I mean, Dignitas, they need to be very secure that they need to make sure that Kale, even though she wants to kind of use the ultimate on herself to stay alive in these fights, they got to prioritize. If they can get the initiation and they could still deal the damage regardless of everything else, well, then Kale might use that on one of their initiators just to stay relevant in the team fight. But if not, I mean, CLG might come out an upper hand. But as you guys can see, we're finally into this game. The pause has been undone. I don't know why, because I had that scroll screen going on like this, so I couldn't actually see the chat. It wouldn't let me do it. But we are in game number 1, guys. And Chobra, we talked about level 1 to a huge extent. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, so far we do have both teams pretty spread out, so I think they're both expecting the unexpected, making sure that they have their bases covered. They don't want any invades. Every entrance is covered by both teams, so teams are playing it quite safe. Amumu's a little bit ahead of him, ahead of the rest of the team, but it's not going to be a problem because no one is set up at CLG to jump on him as a group. We do see some pings going down from both sides, and the ward, of course, was spotted coming out from Dignitas in that entrance towards the blue. A ping going down again just to make sure that CLG is aware of it, and then now we see another ping going down, another ward being put down at the enemy red, so they want to keep tabs on Chaucer's Lee Sin, which of course you have to expect from Dignitas.
And take a look at the items. First off, Yetwin has gone all consumables on top of the consumables he started with. Crystalline flasks are everywhere. I feel like I'm casting a Dota game because look at how full everybody's inventories are at level 1. Look at all the bottles that have been purchased from either side of every team. This is the kind of evolution of the game that we wanted to see. Curse wasn't really doing it. Quantic, they felt boots and potions were still the way to start. These two teams, they're really feeling the new item changes.
Oh, now we do see Zuna getting caught by that Flash Frost, but again, no kill going to happen because there's not enough people to put out the damage. But as you were mentioning the consumables, we have to point out that Sona, on Patoy, or Patoy on Sona rather, has picked up that rejuvenation bead. So that's going to be used most likely for Philosopher's Stone, but picking that up instead of the Fairy Charm, what does that say for Patoy?
I guess it's going to say that they want to be a little bit aggressive and try to out-sustain that bottom lane. If they know that Yutwin has been practicing and building all consumables, that means he's not going to have that little bit of extra oomph to heal himself, so they could win out in some aggressive trades early on. I don't necessarily think of Kale as one of the most aggressive level 1 champions, but if we throw back to Kale's in the top lane when Dyrus was playing her, she can, of course, win some of those level 1 trades against champions that aren't as strong. Ezreal, I like to think of him as a very strong early and mid-game champion, as well as he carries very well into the late game, but if any point in time is going to be his quote-unquote weak point, it's going to be before he gets that phage to trade.
And bottom lane, we already see Patoy taking a lot of damage in the lane. But again, lots of sustain coming out from everyone. Not going to be in too much trouble. Meanwhile, top lane, we did see Hotshot GG just kind of chilling out in the river brush, making sure no one else came to go for a level 1 gank. And now returning to the lane for some farm. But Zuno's already being zoned out, being shoved away by Hotshot GG's Teemo. Is that already a sign for Teemo's command? He started with a flask and 5 pots. So he's just looking to farm, and push out Zuno.
On top of this, we also see 8 ability power from Hotshot GG Teemo, so it is going to be an ability power Teemo. For the folks at home, knock that one down on your scorecards. That means we're going to see the OP Teemo everybody's been complaining about. On the flip side though, mid lane, we do see a little bit of damage being traded between GG and Skara. Nothing really too much happening. We saw some aggression on bottom lane, but other than that, with all these consumables spread all over the place, just look how many wards have been used. Every single ward in the inventories of these 2 supports, except for one from Yut Win, has been dropped everywhere. And if you look around the map, there's some in top lane and river that we saw them put down at level 1, but all the wards in bottom lane have been systematically cleared out.
Yeah, now we do see Lee Sin at the double goals, but meanwhile mid lane we do see Scar running pretty low. He's gonna live with a HP pot for now, but he's gonna need the help of Crumbs if we see Big Fat LP sticking around in that middle lane. He could go for an aggressive kill. He's actually setting up for it right now, but Scar flashes out just in time from that Flash Frost. So again, saved for the time being, but Crumbs is set up. Do they want to go for a counter initiation onto Big Fat LP, get that egg out of the way, or do we just want to see Scar farming up and returning to base? We'll have to wait and see. Crumbs is still around, so they're waiting and waiting, but Crumbs eventually has to forfeit and go back to the jungle to make sure he doesn't fall too behind. So Scar, now it's up to him to decide on his own. Does he want to stay on farm? He's in a little bit of trouble. He gets walled, and are we going to see the Flash Frost land? He actually dodges the stun, but the Ignite goes down. Scar is going to go down. Big Fat LP going to live with the Cryo Phoenix egg. First blood goes to CLG.
On top of this, the top lane, we see Ghost Suzuna getting aggressive on Hotshot GG, but he runs into a wild Chalister. There's the Sonic Wave resonating strike. Cripple Tempest isn't going to land. He actually used it already. Ignite going off from Hotshot GG. Zuna deciding he's going to die, tries to go back in. It's not going to be enough, and Hotshot picks up second blood for CLG.
So CLG is looking really good already, and that was brilliant play by Chowster and Hotshot. Chowster at the right place at the right time. Again, we talked about that. Chowster's everywhere on the map, but then he made sure that Hotshot could get the kill so he could continue zoning out Zuno. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Doublelift takes some abuse from I'm a Cutie Pie's Righteous Fury, but of course, that's not going to last forever. So as soon as it's gone, we may see Doublelift and Yatwian going aggressive because Patoy just went back to base.
I'm going to keep your eyes on this bottom lane, but I do want to talk about a bit of a play. Actually, no.
Doublelift is going to start jumping on with that shield, and he puts down the Mystic Shot, but they're not able to chase because a brilliant slow coming out from I'm a Cutie Pie.
Yeah, and these 2 teams, after a little bit of passivity in the beginning stage of this game, are really just going at each other's throats. We see Scar aggressively warding once again by the enemy raids. Gonna have to know if Anivia is gonna be taking those, or if he can try to come in and steal them as well, or if Chowster on Lee Sin is gonna be roaming around that area. Speaking of Chowster on Lee Sin, you end up going back after his first buy. He has gotten those Madrad's Razors, so it's indicative to me that he is gonna be going for that Wriggles Lantern. The ward just a little bit too valuable for Lee Sin.
He was hanging around the middle. He's going to just go for the Wraith for now, but we could see a mid lane gank coming up from Chowster. I also want to point out quickly, while we have time, I'm a Cutie Pie went for a straight Brutalizer early.
That's a lot of armor penetration. We talked about how much that's been hurting whenever players have been basically playing since Season 3 has come out. Brutalizer is also going to add cooldown reduction on top of everything else, so that means that Kale is going to be able to swing around with a Righteous Fury that much quicker. If they get enough cooldown reduction, it's going to be to the point where Kale is going to become a range carry, stop for maybe half a second, and then become a range carry again.
Meanwhile, mid lane, Scar takes a lot of hurt once again, and there's the Flash Frost falling off. So Scar, again, he's slowly getting pushed out of lane, needs to watch out, and Crumbs really needs to pick up his jungle and put out some pressure for Scar, or as soon as that level 6 comes by, Scars need to leave lane and just roam and try to set up plays that way.
One of the things that's keeping Scar down a bit is the fact that GG had picked up first blood and gone for a Chalice of Harmony. Scar, in the meantime, though, had to go for a Crystalline Flask to try to keep himself sustained in that lane, so he's not going to have the magic resistance that Anivia does.
We do see Chowster going for a little bit of a dive on Scar, keeping him low, and although now he's going to retreat, they may still set up for a kill. He's actually going to walk right by Crumbs, and they're going to run into each other. Chowster finally finds him, and he's putting out some good damage. Who's going to get here first? Big Fat LP actually just turns onto Scar to force him out of the fight, and there's the Agony Agony's Embrace just for the disengage, really, trying to make sure Crumbs gets out alive.
And now CLG is going to try to contest that blue buff. That was a good play. They knew the blue buff was going to spawn soon, and that was one thing that Evelyn needed to come back into that lane. If you force an engagement and you get the jungler involved and you know that you can come out ahead because of that first blood picked up from Anivia, that means that you can win that engagement, force them out of their lane. Not only are they going to be denying more CS to Skara, they deny him of the buff that he needs all so much, and they give it away to Chowster. So now GG, he can sit back and take his buff whenever he wants to. Their buff's going to be up a little bit later because Chowster and Lee Sin, he started red buff. He didn't wind up starting blue buff. That's going to come up probably more around the 8-minute mark, and when it does, Anivia's going to have blue, Evelyn won't, and Anivia's going to have that much more advantage after first blood.
Yeah, we do see a lot of action going down bottom lane. They're trying to put out some good hurt onto Doublelift, but a great Howling Gale comes up from Yatwin to disengage from that. Really good disengages coming up from both teams so far, Tom.
One of the things I like to see in this bottom lane is that Cutie Pie 59 CS compared to Ezreal's 50, so now, even though Double is going pretty standard, wants to get that phase to trade a bit more effectively, that HP, he isn't building armor. That's something you don't really build on AD carry. So when you get an item like a Brutalizer in that bottom lane, it hurts all so much more because you're shredding through the little armor that they actually pack in Runes and Masteries. Look at Cutie Pie, activate Righteous Fury, take one swing at Doublelift, and back away. There's no heal on Janna outside of that ultimate, so there's absolutely no way for Ezreal to stay sustained in that lane, and Dignitas is pushing this advantage.
And look at the brilliant pink ward in the Tri-Brush by Yetwin, but in mid lane, Crumbs gets caught by the wall, and then the Glacier Sword, and brilliant ultimate coming out from Chowster. Is this going to be another kill? Crumbs is actually looking for the trade, but Chowster lives, but a flash hate spike from Scar is going to pick up the kill. Not going to be able to chase Big Fat LP, though.
CLG did a good job of identifying that Scar had roamed down to that bottom and he'd been missing for a while. They knew that he was gone. Chowster, aggressive flash forward, Dragon's Rages Crumbs back into his team. He would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that pesky Skara flashing with a hate spike, but it was a good reciprocation from Skara, and now he's got double buff after picking up that kill on Chowster, so he's going to be looking scary, and now Gigi's going to be a little more afraid in the mid lane.
And like you mentioned, that's what Scar needed, so we're hopefully going to see a lot more aggression coming up from Scar. How are Chowster and Big Fat LP going to react to that? Meanwhile, top lane's been pretty much a farm fest, but if we look at the CS, Hotshot's dominantly winning that trade. It's 69 to 47, and he has that extra kill. So he's just dominating the lane, and now, because of this post-level 6, he's going to have Shrews, but he gets caught trying to scout out. He's got the Bandage Toss, and then now we do have Crumbs and Scar chasing it. Hotshot's going to go down, but they might be able to pick up a double kill here. Crumbs is running very low after that Glacial Storm, but Big Fat LP's out of mana, so Crumbs is going to get away. Now he just has to help disengage for Chowster. Zuna comes in, great flash from Big Fat LP. Chowster is fishing for Crumbs, but there's a brilliant Bandage Toss. He does get finished off, but Scar is going to get this kill.
The red buff we saw Zuna acquiring from the jungle is going to wind up sealing the deal as the kill goes down on Chowster, so they wind up trading 2 for 1 on that trade. GG barely getting out of that engagement. Now they're going to lose the blue buff. Now this is Dignitas taking that one advantage they had in mid lane. Chowster wasn't supposed to die in that gank. They didn't calculate it that way. Now that Scar wound up picking up that kill, they could steal away this blue buff. They give it to Elise. So Elise against Teemo, she's going to start pushing back in this top lane matchup. Scar has double buff, Elise has double buff, CLG. They've been denied these objectives that they wanted to try and secure with their aggressive plays earlier on in the mid lane and in top lane, but now it's backfired on them. So now they have to really kind of compose themselves and figure out, is objective pushing going to be what they do next, or are they going to go for ganks and kills?
Meanwhile, in bottom lane, we do see both AD carries kind of focusing the enemy support, but like you mentioned, Dignitas bouncing back, and we're ready for already an action-packed game. 4-3 at only 11 minutes, and the gold count is pretty similar, but look at that burst going down onto Doublelift. I'm a Cutie Pie is just a champion of hurt right now.
He is indeed a champion of hurt, and he's picked up that pickaxe too, so it makes me think he wants to go for Black Cleaver.
But the Howling Gale lands, and there's the exhaust. Chowster comes in, but a brilliant crescendo coming in from Patoy, but the Sonic Wave had landed. Chowster's going in, and I'm a Cutie Pie a little bit mispositioned right now. There's the intervention, but Chowster's sticking to a good exhaust coming in. True Sharp Broach is dodged, but I'm a Cutie Pie knows he's doomed. He's going for the kill, but a great safeguard. But D Crumbs coming in. Can he get the bandage shots that already missed, but is he going to go for the Curse of the Sad Mummy? It's not on cooldown. Nat Yuen and both Doublelift are going to get out with a sliver of health, Tom.
Kale wanted to try to turn that around to a kill on Ezreal, but Doublelift did a good job of positioning himself away, knowing that the ultimate was still up. The invulnerability would have absolutely taken him down. Dignitas, they're not done pressuring this, though.
Oh, Scar gets the Agony's Embrace, but the ultimate was saved, but Curse of Sad Mummy lands onto Chowster. Haze Sparks are going down. Is the shield going to be enough? They're diving for it. Crumbs is hanking the tower. It's going to be a kill. Can Crumbs get out, though? The cripple doing so much where he barely makes it into the brush, and he's gonna port back to base.
Yeah, and we wound up seeing Crumbs not using the curse this side. Mummy, the flash was down. Actually, Yatwin and Doublelift coming back into the lane, forcing Crumbs back. He's going to take tower shots, though, but will he get himself denied? Yes, he will.
Brilliant deny coming out from Crumbs. Last minute escape. I'm not sure if he actually had time to port back to base, but either way, he wanted to play it safe. He knew enough time had passed, going for the deny. Good play by Crumbs.
Meanwhile, in mid lane, we saw GG taking down that mid tower. Crumbs did save. He didn't save his flash there. He didn't have the flash when he went down to initiate originally, so he wasn't able to pick up the kill on Doublelift. Originally, it looked like it was going to work out poorly for Dignitas, only get a 1-for-1 trade there, but they wound up getting the 2-for-1 with the tower dive because the flash wasn't off of cooldown. So things kind of working out in favor of Dignitas in that one. Yes, Amumu did die, but he denied himself. The no gold or anything went to the side of CLG. That's going to bring Dignitas a little bit closer in this gold count, but because of the farm, especially towards that mid lane, we have Evelyn a little bit of CS ahead. We have Elise struggling to fight back against Teemo 84 compared to 75. The farm on CLG is a little bit stronger, and that's going to be carrying into this 1,000 gold lead with the first blood.
Meanwhile, CLG had that timer on the enemy blue buff. All 4 members are there from the bottom half of the map. Scar really doesn't have a chance, but he actually gets the steal with the hate spike. Brilliant timing, but now caught with the wall. Brilliant wall by Big Fat LP, but he's in a little bit of danger right now, all alone ahead of his team. Trueshot Brush trying to get the snipe, but it barely misses on Scar, so Scar gets out with the blue buff. Chowster is out for blood. Now he finds Crumbs in the mid lane. He goes for the flash ultimate, but a brilliant flash coming up from Crumbs in time to cancel it away from Chowster's Lee Sin.
Yeah, and we did see Chester, and with that tower down, of course, they're able to be a little bit more aggressive, a little more proactive on the map. At the same time, they were able to contest that blue buff, and even though Scar was able to steal away, they still had a little bit more presence, but Crumbs with fancy footwork in and of himself, being able to get out of a sticky situation there. Now we have Dignitas still, a couple thousand gold behind, nothing really gained or lost from either team, so where's the next move going to be? Is it going to be Dignitas trying to push down a tower to reciprocate what CLG has for their lead, or is it going to be CLG continuing to push their advantages they've gained? Of course, they've gained the forward map presence from taking on that middle tower. They, of course, have gained a little bit more objective presence because they've been able to contest almost every single buff that Dignitas has had. Yes, eventually they've been able to take it back, whether it's through a kill or by stealing it away like we saw Scar do with that hate spike, but are they going to keep up this pressure, and is Dignitas going to crack under it, or are they going to respond to it brilliantly like they have been?
Well, Dignitas is set up in the bottom half of the jungle, and Big Fat LP needs to watch out. They're milling about the enemy red buff, so they're looking for possibly a steal or even a dive in the bottom lane. Doublelift is alone until Yatwin gets back to lane, so this is some good timing coming up from Crumbs, and there's the port back from Doublelift. He is going to be spotted by the ward and gets caught by the bandage toss. Not a good place for Doublelift. He's out of mana, but a brilliant cleanse comes out. Agony's Embrace follows, but it's not going to be enough. They might be able to get the kill onto Yatwin, though, putting out a lot of damage. He's surely going to go down. Crumbs tanks the tower, and this could be a dragon for Dignitas.
Could be a dragon, or it could be a tower. It depends which one they want to do. The tower, of course, established them a little bit more presence on the bottom lane, and will let them take that dragon at almost free will because they have the bottom lane down. Yes, they lost the mid lane, but they can contest that bottom dragon area a little bit better than the side of CLG.
Meanwhile, Chowster and Big Fat LP getting sandwiched. The flash rush is going to miss, but a brilliant flash coming out. Zuna follows with his own and lands a cocoon. There's a son, a ton of burst damage coming out from Skara and Zuna combined. Bandage toss barely doesn't catch Chowster, and Chowster and Big Fat LP will make their retreat, but this could again be a setup for Dragon for Dignitas because they've eliminated 2 of the members of CLG from that mid lane presence.
They've also taken out that bottom tower, so that is going to be a non-factor anymore. And we could see just on the bottom lane, Cutie Pie deciding to go back and buy. He has boots, a pickaxe, and a brutalizer. What else is he going to add to his repertoire? What else are we going to see this interesting Kale build come out with? We also see Zuna being a little more active on the map and roaming down and around. We see a Stinger being what Cutie Pie is going to be going for. Very good pickup because he's going to need some sort of attack speed, and that's become super expensive.
Ooh, top lane Bandage Toss lands onto Hotshot GG, and there's a repel coming up from Zuna. They're going to get the kill onto Crumbs, so Hotshot GG maybe could go for a 2v1 kill. No, the spiders are going to help out Zuna in spider form and pick up the equalizing kill. So all in all, Dignitas still comes out with an assist, but that's the power of Teemo already. All he has really is a haunting, guys. Now he's built the Fiendish Codex, but he did so much damage onto Crumbs, who's going to be the front line for Dignitas.
And that was just a little bit of an awkward trade. Zuna almost missed Teemo, but by ducking in and out of that brush, he of course didn't want to move and went up hitting a mushroom or anything, but playing extremely safe was almost a downfall. They almost traded 1 for none in that situation. But Hotshot, I don't know whether it's him with the moves or Teemo being OP, that was a good engage.
Bottom lane, Scar comes in with Agony's Embrace. Doublelift is surely going to... No, a brilliant shield coming from Yatwin. They're going for the disengage. Cutie Pie picks up the kill onto Yat, though, and now it's Chowster left alone. But Doublelift waits for his buddy so that he can blink on. There's the intervention to deny that kill. Also, Trueshot Brush misses, but Chowster is in for blood in this match. He picks up the kill, and an excellent safeguard to a minion. Can he make it out through the river? Crumbs is looking for the bandage toss over the wall. He's going to wait for a second and now try to turn around with cripple, but bandage toss lands, and I'm a Cutie Pie picks up a second kill.
And they're feeding the Kale Beast 2-1 and 2 right now. She picked up all those items, the Stinger, the Brutalizer, the Pickaxe, just wailing on everybody. Good job from the side of CLG, though. We saw the clutch shield from Yetwin being able to save Double Lift in that precarious position. We saw Lee Sin use the Sonic Wave after the intervention was used on Skara, then Resonating Strike after to pick up the kill. Tried to make a Phantom escape out of there by safeguarding away to a minion, but unfortunately the rest of Dignitas had come down to contest that, and that's the power of having that forward tower down in the bottom lane. Dignitas a little bit more free to respawn because they're on this red side. They have the clear path that way, but it didn't work out for CLG.
Big Fat LP tried to go for the tower dive in top lane, but gets put into the air. Hotshot GG also caught out of the tower by Curse of the Sad Mummy, and that's 2 kills for Dignitas. They're well back in this game, Tom.
They did lose that top tower in that engagement. That was a great split Curse of the Sad Mummy by Crumbs. He got into the middle of both champions, knew that he was going to be able to land it and just let it go, so a good engagement there. Don't exactly know why GG and Hotshot were so far pressed forward. I thought maybe they thought they could get that tower down, but excellent positioning by Crumbs, good reaction times by Zuna. Of course, he kept himself alive in that 2v1 until Amumu was able to come in there, and it worked out swimmingly for Dignitas.
Yeah, so they're behind in towers by far. The map presence isn't quite there, but they're picking up a lot of kills. 11-7 against CLG. They're now going to have to sacrifice that bottom tower. Chowster making sure that they don't turn around for any cheeky moves, and I'm a Cutie Pie with that double buff is going to be really scary for Double Lift. They don't really want to have to duel them right now. When are we going to see the next action? Are we going to see teams go for Dragon at all this game, or is CLG just going to try to make sure that they take down all the towers as fast as possible?
Every single outer tower is down on the side of Dignitas, and that 2-tower advantage as well. Actually, a 2-tower advantage because they've actually knocked down another tower in the mid lane as well. We actually kind of missed on that one. So 4 towers down for CLG on the side of Dignitas in favor of CLG. They could be the ones to try to contest Dragon, but after taking that tower, they've had to fall back a bit. Dignitas thinks they could try to take it, but CLG, they haven't gone all the way back. There's going to be a battle here and now over Dragon.
And Elise is a little bit closer if they choose to make it a 5v4. Elise also picked up that Leandre's Torment you mentioned earlier in the pregame discussion we had, so that's a pretty good pickup already onto Elise. Both teams still dancing back and forth at Dragon, but we see Amumu already backed off, going to the lane to make it clear, but we have Skara and I'm a Cutie Pie making sure that CLG doesn't get a free Dragon. Skara is trying to scout out from this brush. They might go for a gank, but Double Lift and Yetwin are also closing in to, and Hotshot GG actually coming down from the top lane, so we might just see a mid lane push from CLG, forcing Dignitas back. They know that they're still around Dragon, scouting it out. This could be a really good early push at 20 minutes.
And CLG, of course, they're taking their advantages and running with it. They had forced Dignitas back from that Dragon because they took the 2 mid lane turrets while Skara was roaming around. He had to do it to get himself back in that matchup. Yes, he still has a decent amount of farm compared to Anivia, only 124 compared to 110, but because of the nature of Evelynn, CLG abused it. They got Anivia in the mid lane, pushing away with that Glacial Storm, and now they took down 2 towers, and Dignitas unfortunately couldn't respond because they were busy responding to every other threat CLG had put out.
And Chowster tried to go for a kill, but Crumbs actually lands a brilliant Curse of the Sad Mummy onto 3 members of CLG. Big Fat LP is the first target on Dignitas. They pick it up, kill going to Zuna. There's a brilliant crescendo. Now catching Yatwi and Chowster. Yat surely going to be the next target. Goes down to I'm a Cutie Pie. Are they going to continue pushing? Intervention's been used, and they're actually just going to go ahead and disengage. No! Crumbs is going to come back in with another bandage toss, just landing all these stuns coming out from Dignitas, and they're still poking at this tower. They know Chowster's really low. Cocoon lands onto Double Lift. Zuna needs to watch out. The Hotshot GG could come in with one burst and take him out of the fight.
You also have to be careful of running over those mushrooms. If one of those mushrooms explodes on the whole team, they could be in a very bad spot. They're bruised and battered, but they're still going for Dragon. They know that the smite is low. Hotshot trying to come in and contest this. He wants them to walk over that mushroom, but look at Cutie Pie not following for it. He will get shut down, though. A lot of bonus gold going to Double Lift there. They are going to wind up securing the Dragon.
The bandage toss lands onto Chowster, and the repel coming out from Zuna. Double Lift is now sandwiched with an exhaust on him. A double kill for Skara, and they're going to get... No, they hit a mushroom, though, and Hotshot GG gets at least one pity kill against Skara.
And that's why everybody hates Teemo, Chobra, when you put the mushrooms out and pick up kills for no reason. But now Big Fat LP trying to turn on Flash Frost. Good dodge there by Ghost of Zuna. They're going to be able to get out of that one. And that was a very long team fight. Both teams wound up taking casualties on either side. But all in all, Dignitas lost 2 members. CLG, I believe it was 3 or 4 members they lost that entire trade, as well as losing out on Dragon. So in the grand scheme of things, Dignitas comes out leaps and bounds ahead. They've jumped ahead now, 16 to 9 kills, 32.4k to 30.7k. They've taken back the gold lead by about 2,000 gold, even though they have half the amount of towers that CLG has, even though they gave up first blood to the enemy team. Because of good team play, even though they lost that mid lane tower, now that it's come down to let's contest dragons, let's fight for these global objectives and try to establish map presence, something that we raved about Chalister doing in the early stages of the game, Dignitas have been able to counteract that and shut it down.
And you know the Leandre's Torment isn't only going to work for Elise herself, but look at the rest of the team. We talked about this earlier. So much crowd control coming out. Everyone is going to be CC'd nonstop on CLG. Chalister goes for a brilliant ult on the Scar though into the tower. Banish Toss and Curse, so Sad Mummy coming in. Intervention saves Scar. He's actually going back in with Agony's Embrace. Zuna jumps way ahead of the team, wants to get that single kill onto Chalister, but now he's in a lot of trouble. Chalister's going to wait until he gets an execution. Nearly gets killed himself, but the shutdown goes to double lift. A little bit of a misplay by Zuna there.
Yeah, now Dignitas is going to have to back away from this one. They had to be very careful because CLG is going to be able to push out, get that control of that river, get control of the bus. Looks like there's none actually on the map right now, so that's one benefit that Dignitas has, is that there's no bus for CLG to really take. But now they can get themselves a little bit more prime positioning around Baron. One of the big things they have is Teemo, and Teemo can put mushrooms all over the place by Baron. If a support runs over a mushroom while they're trying to ward the Baron area, it could be lights out because all Hotshot has to do is come down from top lane, poke them once or twice with those little lasers Astronaut Teemo's going to be firing, and it could be lights out for Batoy Sona. Same thing with the mid lane. If GG decides to roam, they hit a mushroom and he walls him off in a bad position, it's dead person trying to put wards around Baron. So now we see Dignitas playing a little bit more defensively, falling back in these lanes, and CLG, they're roaming forward, they're taking control of the enemy side of the map, and they want to try to come back into this game, and one way they're going to do it is by being aggressive and being smart aggressive, by putting wards down, knowing where the enemy team is, and knowing how to catch them out of position.
I mean, Chalister's been setting up really good plays for CLG, except for that one footwork coming out from Crumbs. He's been able to set up a lot of these team fights, and also Big Fat LP going for that late game with the tier, but does get slowed by I'm a Cutie Pie. The wall is there, but Scar comes in with the DFG and Agony's Embrace. Now in the egg, Big Fat LP has no escape, going to be a quick kill. Actually, just giving it to I'm a Cutie Pie. Smart move by Scar, making sure that Kale can catch back up in the game.
Kale, I don't know if Kale has to catch up at this point in time, though. She has a Ginsu's Rage Blade, the thing we talked about in the chat. We're really good with these champion predictions, by the way, Trump. I'm just going to say that right now. Ginsu's Rage Blade on top of the Brutalizer, the Stinger, and the Pickaxe acquired. She still only has level 1 boots, but that's all they need. Kale is going to be a monster. She's kind of a hyper carry. She's not like a Vayne. She's almost like a Jax, but a squissier version. She deals a little bit more damage as well, so that's a really awesome thing to see. They're giving the kills to Kale. They want the Cutie Pie train to carry him through this game, and it's working out beautifully for them so far.
You know, Kale also hasn't picked up too much other sustain other than, of course, the Rage Blade passive kicking in when he's at 50% health. So really counting on his teammates to set up those team fights with Curse of the Sad Mummy and Crescendo and Agony's Embrace, and then just popping intervention on them so they can stay in the fight longer. It's been working out for Dignitas, but like you mentioned, Tom, CLG has so much map presence still. The 2 towers down in mid lane is devastating for Dignitas. Then we have Hotshot GG, the famed split pusher in North America, just pushing away in top lane, trying to make sure Zuna can't go and join Dignitas for the other team fights.
Let's take a quick look at the goal counts. We're talking about how maybe Kale wasn't that far behind, but because of the objectives, Double is actually still at a decent gold advantage, almost 700 compared to Cutie Pie. So that could be another reason why they are feeding those kills away to that 80 carry they need to carry. So for even though Dignitas has a gold advantage, it's only on certain champions. A lot of it is going to be in the mid lane where Scar is dominating on Big Fat LP for now. A lot of it's also in the jungle. Chalister has 5 deaths and 5 assists, but Crumbs is 3, 4, and 9. He's gotten his Sunfire Cave. He has the I'm going to hover over it for a second. He has the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith, actually. Hasn't gone for the Ancient Golem. So that's one of those items we thought, who the heck was going to build this one? Apparently, it's Crumbs.
Well, it does give that spell vamp and that ability power. And of course, Amumu has slowly shifted over to building some damage to make sure that he can stay relevant in extended team fights. So that could actually be a brilliant pickup. And then we have Mikhail's Crucible on the Sona, played by Patoy on Dignitas. And that's another item people weren't sure about. It's pretty expensive. of, is any support really going to have the time to build it? He said, you know what, I'm going to rush it and make sure that my AD carry or whoever really needs it can stay safe. And we do have CLG setting up for a fight here. A lot of mushrooms near that Baron pit. Crumb's already taking a lot of hurt from that because of the Liandry's Torment on Teemo working with his poison. And CLG is now just clearing out the wards in Baron, and the Baron dance begins at 26 minutes, so pretty early in the game, Tom.
And this is what they want to do. They want to fight on the minefield. They want to put Dignitas in an area where they don't feel comfortable engaging, so they can't get all the AoE. You were talking about it. Look at all these mushrooms. Wards, mushrooms, wards, mushrooms. They're all pink wards too, so there's not going to be any ward coverage or mushroom clearing out from the side of Dignitas. They do have to get that Orc Slish, which Patoy has picked up. Look at GG just doing a great job of zoning out Dignitas. They want them to go in here. They want them to try to force an engagement somewhere else. They're just preventing them from taking Baron. They're taking their own objectives. We saw it right there, GG being able to pick up his own blue buff. They're completely zoning him out of the one objective, which is the quote-unquote win more button when you have it and you're ahead by a decent amount. They're only ahead by a little bit, so that would skyrocket them into that commanding lead of the game, and they're doing a good job.
Oh, Crumbs jumps in with a banish like Crystal Sand Mummy. Big Fat LP is not able to survive through that. Chouse is going to get dove past the tower. Double if now the next target. There's a repel. Scar is going to get killed for the equalizer kill, but Zuna's going to pick it up. Hotshot GG now coming in from behind. Is he going to get the cleanup? He's too scared to initiate. There's still 4 members. The tower's already gone. Now he shows himself and trying to get the quick kill onto Patoy. Patoy says, help me out here, Dignitas, but they say, no, we're going to take this inhibitor tower, and now they turn around with a cocoon and the bandage toss. A quick kill again. Dignitas is going to get this inhibitor.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Hotshot played a little bit too curious there, so he decided to go closer and closer and closer until he was within range from Zuna. Instant speed reaction to get that cocoon down. That was a really good play by Dignitas. And we were talking about how CLG wants to force them into an uncomfortable position where their AoE won't exactly be the best for them. Unfortunately, they wanted to fight them in the open lane. They didn't really want to fight them in the controlled jungle area around Baron, and when they were moving down to get back to the mid lane, I don't think they expected Dignitas to be that far ahead of them. They had a Shurelya's Reverie on the side of Elise, so Gosuzuna picked that one up, activating that. They got into the engagement a little bit quicker. They had a bit better positioning and caught CLG as they exited the jungle rather than after they've come out of it. So they trapped them in that little area. We saw the Curse of the Sad Mummy absolutely wreck what CLG wanted to do. GG evaporated. Doublelift was able to pick up a kill on Skara, but it was too little too late at that point. I believe it was a 4-for-1 trade in favor of Dignitas.
And CLG now kind of peeking at Baron, but they realize Dignitas is all back from the base, so they can't go for a free one just yet. They could still try to bait them into that minefield, though. Another thing to note, Patoy is 1-0-11, just sticking by I'm a Cutie Pie, and they both haven't really been touched in these team fights. CLG hasn't been able to plow through Crumbs, Zuna, and Scar to get to the high targets, and CLG is starting that Baron right now. Dignitas surely has to assume this, and Scar is actually scouting it out. They see some movement. Dignitas, as long as they get in place, they could play cleanup here, but Crumbs is going to hit the first mushroom, and there's many more waiting for them. There's a wall, but Agony's Embrace. Scar a little bit ahead of his team. Yak gets caught by Curse of the Sad Mummy, and we are going to see a brilliant crescendo coming down. His first kill goes to Zuna once again. Chowster down in a lot of trouble. Gets bandage tossed despite the Shriel's Reverie being popped, and now they split. Perfect split from Dignitas. They're chasing down Cocoon. Lands onto Hotshot GD. Meanwhile, Big Fat LP trying to kite away. Brilliant bandage toss following through, but Hotshot wants to get the equalizing kill with the mushrooms. Crumbs should be able to live through this last one despite that hurt, and now Doublelift all alone trying to poke away at the low health, maybe trying to go for a snipe alongside Big Fat LP, but Dignitas realizes this, and they say, you know what, we're just gonna go for the kills, and there's a cocoon onto Big Fat LP. Meanwhile, Shutdown going to double it, but he needs to watch out. Zuna's going for the repel. He lands, and he's chasing through the brush, but red buff and blue buff on double it. He's going to be able to kite pretty well, but look at that damage coming out from Suna. Scar's hunting for this kill, but he doesn't want to get hit by another Mystic Shot.
And all that engagement was on Skara from the side of Dignitas. We looked at the vision very briefly before anybody engaged in that one. Both teams couldn't see anything from the either side. We had that one ward go over the side from Dignitas to know when CLG was going to be using the Baron, and we had the one from CLG to know where Dignitas was in positioning. When they came in straight through the river through a giant minefield of mushrooms. However, they were so busy keeping Dignitas at bay over here, Skara came around the opposite side and stuck 4 members of CLG Prime in a brilliant Agony's Embrace. Even though Crumbs wasn't only able to get one of them with the Curse of the Sad Mummy, Crescendo locked up 2 remaining members after that one. They were burst down, and Skara didn't care if he was walking through mushrooms. Using the W from Evelyn, he could get rid of the slow. He could take the damage from the Agony's Embrace shield, and they just went on a cleanup duty rampage. Doublelift, though, the star shining in that engagement from the side of CLG Prime, he was able to stay alive. He was able to take out members of Dignitas and prevent them from doing Baron in that case.
Yeah, you know, it's really kind of interesting to see that Yatwian's just been getting caught behind the team of CLG so many times in these team fights. Meanwhile, CLG hasn't been able to touch Patoy at all. Once again, finishing the fight with no deaths, 1-0-15. Zuna now has a Guardian Angel, going to be even a stronger front line for Dignitas. We have Amumu returning with a Negatron Cloak now to make sure, and Scar actually catches Chowster with Agony's Embrace. He's gonna chase through because Crumbs is coming in for the pinch. He's gonna be able to land this next banish. The flash has been blown, an early flash, but there's a brilliant safeguard, but both are caught by a Curse of the Sad Mummy. Scar's gonna walk right by that wall, and Crumbs is now caught by the Mystic Shot from Doublelift. Hotshot GG does get stunned by the Cocoon, but Doublelift realizes he's really strong. He's going for the kill onto Scar. Crescendo has to come out, but the snipe not gonna come out because of the intervention brilliantly placed by AmaCutiePie, and Dignitas is now looking for the disengage.
Yeah, Dignitas taking the aggressive mount here, and now CLG has to play defensive. Fortunately enough, both of these teams are still extremely strong. Only about 4,000 gold separating the two teams right now. That's the way it's been for the past amount of time. Even though Dignitas came out ahead in that engagement by Baron, they were 4,000 gold ahead before and worked out 4,000 gold ahead after that. So both these teams trying to stay neck and neck with one another. Like we mentioned before, they each have their certain farmed members on the team, and they're taking those advantages and pushing them to their limits. Now we see CLG posturing for this Baron again, but they don't have the elaborate minefield, and Skara going for the same loop around. Is it going to work?
They're prepared, but there's a Cocoon to start the fight this time. Agony's Embrace goes down. Big Fat LP surely going to be killed off first, and Zuna now looking for another target to repel onto Chowster, and Hotshot GG are pinched, but Patoy is going to finally go down in this game. Crumbs and AmaCutiePie also have to retreat. They're gonna have to sacrifice Zuna. Shot Barrage goes out, not gonna be able to pick up a snipe, and Zuna also going down. CLG is gonna come out on top. No, actually, Chowster is going to be finished off there, so it's a 3-2 trade, but Dignitas looking really dangerous. Doublelift could go for the cleanup. Double kill, and now there's the Mystic Shot, gets the Triforce proc, and Doublelift is going to go for a simple auto attack for the ace, going to CLG Prime.
That was an awesome triple kill there, and as we talked about, is the same engage going to work from the side of Dignitas? They didn't have the Curse of the Sad Mummy in that engagement, and it really didn't work out for them. The intervention had been used in that bottom lane gank as well, so CLG knew this. They took their advantages. They went over to Baron. They felt like they were the stronger team, and even though they started the fight behind in gold, they ended the fight behind in gold. All the kills went to the right person. Doublelift is a monster. Even though on the side of Dignitas, they have Kale, who we don't really know the unlocked potential of after this Season 3 patch. Doublelift is gone for a tried and true build, Bloodthirster, Trinity Force, Last Whisper, Ezreal. In addition to this, an Elixir of Fortitude. There's no more green pot, so he doesn't have the extra attack speed, doesn't have any critical strike or anything like that. No, instead he's got something better. He's got HP and damage. And look at that, 248 CS compared to 203, 9-3 and 4 compared to 5, 4 and 8. Look at the gold counts. He is 3,000 gold ahead. The differential between these two teams can be made up by the gold that Doublelift has over CutiePie in and of himself. So as we said, certain characters have more gold than one another on these teams, and is it going to work out for them? Oh no, we miss Evelyn coming around there, picking up a quick kill on Doublelift. And as I say, Doublelift can help carry his team. He gets caught out and dies.
And now with that pickup, Dignitas is looking to pressure this middle inhibitor. It is open. They took it once before. With Doublelift gone, like you mentioned, he was the power in that last team fight. Can Dignitas get a cleanup? Hotshot GG try to put out some shrooms ahead of time. Cocoon lands onto Big Fat LP. AmaCutiePie going to scout ahead, taking that mushroom out. But now we're seeing Dignitas actually having to disengage just a little bit because of all that damage over time. They're trying to poke at it, and now there's the initiation. Cocoon lands on, and there's a brilliant Curse of the Sad Mummy. Natwin's still caught behind, but Flash is going to put distance between him and Dignitas. Despite that crescendo, Zuna's still looking for the kill, but he's taking a lot of damage over time. Intervention has to be used. The inhibitor's been taken, so Dignitas now has to get out of here before they get picked off.
Those were two amazing disengages. We saw Chowster Dragon's Rage back the team, knocked it through members of Dignitas, so they weren't able to pursue any further either. He barely got out alive. Win used the Jana ultimate at the last crucial second to knock back absolutely everybody. On top of getting away with a sliver of health, he burned the flash from Gozuzuna as Zuna tried to go back in and pick up a kill. They burned the intervention from Kale because of this. They had almost all their ultimates up except for Evelyn's for that engagement. Now, during the next fight, if CLG heals up and goes to get Testis Baron, they're only going to have the Evelyn ultimate. So victory in that one, definitely on the side of CLG.
And now CLG going for that Baron. They know that Dignitas had to go all the way back. It's going to pretty much be free. Crumbs is going to peek around here because of that ward. If he can get the steal, good job to Dignitas, but not going to land it. And Dignitas, or Skara, puts down that Agony's Embrace, but has to run away immediately. Chowster looking for a quick scout around those brushes, not going to find him, and it's okay because CLG comes out with the Baron, and now they're going to be able to push back despite the super minions in the middle lane.
Dignitas going to try to reprise by taking Dragon so they can stay pretty much ahead in their global gold count. They have relatively equalized though. Only a couple hundred gold separates these two teams in global gold, so when you look at it on paper, they're pretty much on even footing. That Dragon puts Dignitas ahead by about 1.5k. We're approaching the almost 40-minute mark. It's not really going to mean as much unless you have one of those giant decisive gold leads. And as we've seen in recent tournament play, the longer the game goes, the less and less that gold lead actually matters. Once again, let's take a quick look at the gold distribution. Almost 12,000 gold on the side of Gozuzuna, but Hotshot already above the 12,000 gold mark. Edge CLG. The jungler for Dignitas, over 3,000 gold ahead of Chowster. That is, of course, going to be Edge to Dignitas, so they have a little bit more of a tanky front line. Mid lanes, they're a little bit equalized. Scar has a slight edge on GG, but there's 80 carries. Edge to double lift, and that is where the gold is going to matter. The AD carry, the person that wants to bring you into the late game and you want to win with, the side of CLG has him ahead. The top laner, the split pusher, Hotshot GG, he's ahead of Zuna. So if we have those edges on the side of CLG, they're the ones being aggressive now. They know it because of how many items double lift has gone back and acquired and how much Teemo has been dealing damage with all these mushrooms. Even though he's 3, 6, and 7, he is a crucial part to CLG's success if they decide to go and push.
And again, we talked about penetration before the game, Tom, but we have that last whisper and now the void staff. That really made the difference. As soon as those two items came out, Dignitas' front line just melted despite the lead they had. And Dignitas wasn't able to catch double lift, so they've been focusing Big Fat LP, but as soon as that charge is finished on the Archangel staff, it's going to turn into that Sarah's Embrace, and even Big Fat LP is going to be able to live through a little bit more hurt in the beginning. Also, we have the Quicksilver Sash on double lift now. Even if he doesn't make it into Mercurial Scimitar, the point is he has 2 cleanses available and then the Arcane Shift on top of the Flash. Even if they do catch him with 1 or 2 abilities, double lift is going to bounce back, kite away from the team while Chowster bounces around, while Hotshot GG just baits everyone into a minefield. CLG is way ahead despite the 10 kill lead and 2 tower lead that Dignitas has.
And then looking around, nobody on either side looks to have been picking up an Aegis of the Legion, so there's absolutely no team fight presence aside from Shirelia's Reveries. All of these are individual item builds, which case in point means that Dignitas, I was looking at Crumbs here, even though Crumbs can initiate and have an AoE disable with that Curse of the Sad Mummy, even though Dignitas goes for a bit of AoE damage in these team fights, the itemization right now is all about the individual. Like we were talking about before, because of the gold counts and who it's going to be on, Edge is in favor of CLG, especially with that Baron buff still ticking away. They only have about a quarter of it left. 3/4 of it has been used up, so if they want to make a move with it, they're going to have to do it soon, but their individuals have better itemization from the side of CLG than in Dignitas. We see Amumu wound up going from an Abyssal Scepter, as did Evelyn. Sunfire Kate to keep him tanky. He went, of course, to that Spirit Stone. He wound up going for the Wraith one, so he has a little bit of a different play style from that. Isn't necessarily as beneficial for the team as he wants to be. Now going to pick up the Aegis of the Legion. On the side of CLG, same thing. We see Yutwin, no Aegis in sight whatsoever. Even from the side of Chowster, he hasn't been able to go back and get it. He's actually gone for a Spirit Massage to try to reduce some of the AP damage coming out from the double AP comp of Dignitas. So if they get into a fight, it's going to be all about who has the individual items. Even Sona had to go for something to help Kale out, because Kale has to use the intervention on maybe Skara, or if they're using it on Zuna, but not necessarily on herself. Double lift, if he gets that Mercurial Scimitar, it's all about the double lift show, and if they can just push forward, let double lift do his thing, CLG is going to wind up taking game 1.
Yeah, another interesting point is we haven't seen any enchants, as far as I can tell, coming out on any of these boots yet. But if this game goes any longer, they're going to have, you know, all their slots are going to be used up. It'll be interesting to see which champions pick up which enchantments to make sure that they get the better edge in team fights. Doublelift now farming up in the bottom. We see Zuna walking around looking for just a little bit more farm to try to finish up, hopefully, maybe the Frozen Heart or what's going to be built out of that Negatron Cloak. We can only guess with all these new items. Now clearing up that mid lane with Crumbs. Doublelift now farming up even more in the bottom lane. Already has that BF sword. I think he might just be looking to rush that Mercurial Scimitar.
I think Doublelift wants to get his Doublelift item from Chobra. This is the point in game where it's all on the players. This is up to them to show us which items they're going to favor in these late game team fight situations. Which ones are the end game builds and which ones are the early game builds. What items are going to shine, the new ones or the old safe ones. We see a combination of both coming out from either side. Even like you said, Big Fat LP has that Archangel staff. When is it going to turn to that Saris Embrace? Is CLG buying time for it? 729 out of 750. If Dignitas engages now, they might have a chance to burst down Big Fat LP. If they engage like 10 seconds or after this wave is down, he's going to have that Saris Embrace.
They're not going to have time because Scar just blew his DFG and Agony's Embrace. CLG knows that they're pressuring it a little bit, and then we're going to have the Saris Embrace. There it is, coming out from Big Fat LP. So CLG is ready for this fight. I'm sure that they've communicated that through. They know they can fight even if Agony's Embrace comes back up. They've been stronger so far in the recent team fights, and that's what matters. Doublelift going to be picking up that red buff. Again, going to be really good for his kiting capabilities, and of course, the extra damage. Meanwhile, Dignitas hasn't really picked up anything new in this time. They've just waited for the cooldown to come back up from Skara. If Skara can put out a brilliant ultimate like the first time we saw them at Baron, Dignitas could pull this off, but if not, I have to say CLG is looking a lot stronger, Tom.
I'm just looking at what happened. Skara ran over a mushroom on his way to bottom lane. I thought maybe he was tanking the minions, but there's a minion wave there. He's at half HP. How much damage is Hotshot's Teemo doing? I'm going to go take a look at Teemo here. We can see he has 356 ability power on top of that Liandry's Torment, so he's going to be burning away. He has a Morello's Evo Time on top of that Void Staff. He, looking at his penetration, 35 and 40%. He even has armor penetration. Actually, there's something going on in the mid lane, though, as we're too busy looking at Hotshot being cute.
We did see Chowster eventually getting caught. They caught Zuna first on the CLG side, but Zuna disengaged perfectly. Intervention came through, and they pick up Chowster. This is a chance for Dignitas to push against this inhibitor. Hotshot GG rushing down, and he's trying to decide, do I just go ahead and split push? Are we going to sacrifice this inhibitor? He's milling about in the blue buff. The inhibitor slowly getting chipped down. Doublelift is hungry for blood, though. He still has that QSS ready, and the IE, I'm a cutie pie, melts to Doublelift in just a couple auto attacks and a Mystic Shot. Intervention had been used, and now Dignitas trying to run away with the Show's Reverie, but they run into a mushroom, yet still going to chase, puts down the slow into Scar. Scar is going to get rid of it with his ability. He's going to speed through, but there's another mushroom. They're just getting slow non-stop. Big Fat LP looking for the wall. He catches Crumbs, but a flash comes out from the Mummy, and now there's a cocoon for the extra disengage. Can they now maybe go for Baron then on CLG's side?
It's just such a crazy game. We are talking about, is damage too powerful? The enemy AD carry just evaporated in 2 shots from one other AD carry. I don't know if you can chalk that up to a better item build from Doublelift, how much farther ahead he is in the gold count. He is 4,000 gold ahead of Kale, but he absolutely evaporated Cutie Pie. We of course talked about earlier, because of the way Dignitas is playing, they don't have that intervention to keep their AD carry alive. They're using it on someone who's going to initiate fights. We talked about having Elise get caught out. The intervention was used. Chowster wound up dying because of it. However, Doublelift is too powerful. They tried to pressure that mid inhibitor. They wanted to garner advantage off of their kill, but Doublelift came in and he said, nah, I'm Ezreal, I'm fed, I'm going to shut you guys down, and that's exactly what happened. I talked about it earlier. It's the Doublelift show right now.
Crumbs goes in with the bandage toss, and Curse of Sad Money followed by Crescendo. Dignitas trying to set up the fight they want, but they have to disengage just after 2 kills because Doublelift is just putting out the pain. Cocoon comes out. There's one play. Scar now melting to this Ezreal. Big Fat LP diving in. Patoy just trying to run away in the side. Doublelift is still chasing. There's a repel, but he's going to have to come down in the same place. He's actually going to go behind because Doublelift is going for the triple kill against I'm a Cutie Pie. Zuna has nowhere to run. Going to get that Guardian Angel down. Doublelift is just waiting around looking for that kill. There's the Glacial Storm coming in from Big Fat LP. Quadra kill going down for Doublelift. Patoy the only one left denying that Penta, but CLG is going to get this inhibitor and possibly a Nexus turret or two.
Patoy, we saw him recalling in the bottom lane. As I talked about, double lift is too strong. 14-4-4. We saw 4,000 gold lead, 17,000 gold. He's actually got that at 20,000 gold. He literally single-handedly won CLG Pro in that fight and won them that game. There were some clutch walls by Big Fat LP in that engagement. Nat Nguyen, of course, in the beginning of that fight had a good disengage with his Janna ultimate. It kept them off double lift, but they just had too much for Dignitas to combat, and unfortunately, they weren't able to come back into this one. And I think we have a point to make if we could bring up the score screen really quick. How powerful was double lift? 20,000 gold worth of powerful. Look at the side of Dignitas. Who had anywhere close to that gold? Cutie Pie, 13.8k. Double Lift almost had as much gold as Crumbs and Patoy combined. That's how strong you end up being. Even on his own team, he doubled his own support's gold. He almost doubled Chowster's gold. Chowster had 100 gold to save him from being doubled there, but it was absolutely insane how powerful he was. Can Double Lift keep it up in game number 2? And is CLG going to use the information they learned from this game to take a quick 2-0 victory and a cool $1,000 cash prize? Or is Dignitas going to get it together? They look strong in that game. We can't blame Dignitas for anything. But guys, we want to see game number 2 as much as you do. So we'll be right back after a quick commercial break.